Hi everybody, and welcome back to Room 9, our region's largest classroom. My name is Miss St. Louis, and I'm a teacher at Rogers Elementary School in the Mehlville School District, and we are located in South St. Louis County. Today, I'm here to teach a reading lesson that's geared towards students who are in the 3rd grade, but all learners are more than welcome to learn and explore along with us. So let's get started. This week, we are talking about all things point of view. Now, point of view is the perspective from which a text is written. So when we talk about point of view, there are 2 main points of view that we talk about. The first is first person. And first person point of view is when the story is told from the viewpoint of one of the characters. And the other is third person. And third person is when the narrator is not a part of the story. So the person telling the story is not actually one of the characters. Okay? And so the way in which we identify if a story is first person or third person is that we often look for those key words to help us. So when we're talking about first person, we look to see if there are words like I, me, we, words that would identify that the story is being told by one of the characters, right? Someone who is involved in the main events, right? I did this, we did this. That's showing that I'm a part of what's going on. Whereas when we have third person, we're looking for words like he, she, they. That's talking about other characters in the book that I have no part in, right? So this is somebody who's not a part of that. So those keywords can help us. Now remember, we learned yesterday that those keywords, right, those are called pronouns. Now, pronouns are the words that replace our nouns, right? The people, places, things, and animals, right? So they're those kinds of words. Words like he and she, you, I, me, them, they, those, all, right? They're those replacement words. So I can replace words in a sentence to take place of those, okay? So I know that we practiced some of these yesterday, but let's do a little bit more practice today. And we're gonna look at some sentences and see if we can replace some of the words with some pronouns. And I'll give you some choices since there are so many pronouns to choose from. It can be really hard to choose. So here is our very first sentence. Are you ready? The puppies are in the yard. The puppies are in the yard. Now the words that we would like to replace are the puppies. So should we replace that with they, he, or we? Blank are in the yard. Hearing people say they. Why would I say they are in the yard to replace the children are in the yard? Excuse me. Right, well, I wouldn't use he because there's more than one person, and I don't know if they're boys or girls, right? And I wouldn't use we because I never said that I was a part of the children. So we would use they, right? They. The part of the puppies. What am I talking about? I'm looking at the next sentence. I'm so sorry. I'm getting myself all confused. So we would say they because I'm not a part of those puppies, right? Not a puppy. I wouldn't say he because I don't know if the puppies are boys or girls, right? And I wouldn't say we because I'm not a part of them. So I say they. Very good. Let's try another one. I'll make sure I read the right sentence when I tell you. All right. Julia and her sister get scared during the storm. Julia and her sister get scared during the storm. I want to replace Julia and her sister. Should I replace it with they, he, or she? I'm hearing a lot of you say they. Why would I pick they to replace Julia and her sister? Right, because there's a group of them. They refers to more than one person, whereas he and she only refers to a singular person. Now, I also wouldn't use he because we're talking about girls in this situation, right? And I can't use she because there's more than one girl. Very good. Okay, next up. She really wants to go to Jackson's house. She really wants to go to Jackson's house. What can I replace Jackson's with? She really wants to go to blank's house. Could I say hers, he, or his? Now, I wouldn't use her because we're talking about Jackson, right? So I'm referring to a boy. So I'm between he and his. So I want to go to he house or I want to go to his house. Very good. His, right? His often we use when we're talking about ownership of things, right? His house. It's his, right? His bike, his shoes, right? We're talking about something that belongs to someone else, right? Same thing with that word her, right? Her house, her bike, her shoes, right? We're talking about you owning something, right? So those are the words that we use when we're talking about ownership. He and she is referring to a specific person, right? He wears those shoes, right? I'm talking about a specific person. She rides the bike. I'm talking about a person there. So the ways in which we use these words are very important into where they belong in a sentence. Very good. All right, last sentence for today. That bike is Ronnie's. That bike is Ronnie's. Would I replace Ronnie's with theirs, he, or hers? That bike is Ronnie's. Well, it's not theirs, right? Because it only belongs to one person. Could I say that bike is he? No, that doesn't sound right. That bike is hers? Right. We're showing ownership of the bike. Whose bike is it? It's hers. Very good. You guys are getting the hang of this. Awesome job. All right, well, now that we've identified those pronouns, are you ready to dive into our book for the day? Me too. So yesterday we dived into the book Little Bad Riding Hood, and we noticed that this book was a fractured fairy tale. Now, fractured fairy tales refer to fairy tales that have been broken just a little bit, or fractured, right? Fractured means that it has a little break. If we fracture a bone, we don't completely break it apart, right? We just break it a little bit. I don't know if you've ever fractured a bone. I know I haven't, but if you ever have, you might have gotten to see that x-ray where you got to see the fracture. So fractured fairy tales are fairy tales that have broken a little bit. It doesn't mean that they're completely different fairy tales. It means that we take some key pieces, right? Maybe we take the same plot or we use the same characters and we change it up a little bit. So today we're going to read another fractured fairy tale. And the fairy tale that we're going to read today is Brownilocks and the Three Bowls of Cornflakes. Does this remind you of any fairy tales you're familiar with? Yeah, it reminds you of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So let's read the back to give us a little preview of what this book is about. When Brownilocks the bear goes into the woods, she's in for a big surprise. She finds a house with 3 bowls of cornflakes ready to eat. But what will happen when Dad, Mom, and Sam come back? Uh-oh. What do you think? Let's make a quick prediction. What will happen when Dad, Mom, and Sam come back? Will they be happy? Angry? Mad? You know, I think I would be scared if there was a bear in my house. I don't know if I'd want to go in there if there was a bear. Well, let's read to find out. Mom put out 3 bowls of cornflakes. 1, 2, 3. Let's go for a walk before breakfast, she said. Brownilocks the bear was out walking too. She smelled the cornflakes. Tasty, she thought, climbing in. Brownilocks sat down in Dad's chair. Too hard, she growled. She tried Mom's chair. Too soft, she moaned. She went over to Sam's chair. Just right, she thought, reaching for Sam's cornflakes. But crash! Brownilocks was too heavy, and Sam's chair snapped. Brownilocks felt sleepy. She tried the biggest bed. Too hard, she grunted. She tried the next bed. Too bouncy, she cried. Then she tried the smallest bed. Just right, she said. So she climbed on and fell fast asleep. What do you think is going to happen next? Right? So we know that Brownilocks is sleeping. So what's going to happen now? Let's think back to the story we know. We know what happens in Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. So do you think, based on what we know from that book, right, we can make a guess as to what happens next? Make a little prediction? Yeah. The family might come home. Let's see. Mom, Dad, and Sam came back from their walk. Dad frowned. Who's been sitting in my chair? He asked. Who's been sitting in my chair? Mom gasped. Then Sam yelled, who broke my chair and ate all my cornflakes? They looked all over the house. Who's been sleeping in my bed? Cried Dad. And in my bed, cried Mom. Hey, look who's in my bed, yelled Sam. And she's snoring. At that point, I would have ran. There's a bear in your bed. Brownilocks woke up, rushed downstairs, and ran outside. She ran across the garden and into the woods. She was a nice bear, Sam sighed. I wish she'd come back. Dad fixed Sam's chair and found a beanbag for Brownilocks. The next morning, Mom put out 4 bowls of cornflakes. 1 for her, 1 for Sam, 1 for Dad, and a big one for the bear. How kind is that? They're including him. Brownilocks soon came back when she smelled the cornflakes. Here's your bowl, said Sam. Here's your beanbag, called Dad. Brownilocks sat on Dad's chair. Try the beanbag, Dad said. Then Brownilocks tried Sam's bowl. "This one's bigger," said Sam. Brownilocks gobbled up all the cornflakes and slurped up all the milk from the big bowl. Brownilocks looks pretty happy, don't you think? I think so too. Brownilocks yawned. It made me yawn for real. You know, sometimes when I see other people yawn, it makes me yawn. So that yawn made me yawn. Brownilocks yawned. She thumped up the stairs and laid in Sam's bed. Then Sam curled up with Brownilocks and read her a story. But Brownilocks longed to be outside. She climbed out of the window and ran into the woods. Sam wanted to see his new friend again. "Come back soon," he cried. Brownilocks liked the woods, but she also liked Sam and the tasty cornflakes. She did come back the very next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. The end. What did you think about that book? How was this book similar to the Goldilocks and the Three Bears that we are familiar with? Yeah, in this book, right, the main character tried out the different foods, tried out the different chairs, right, tried out the different beds to find the one that was just right, right? But this book had a little bit of some differences as well, right? Our characters were kind of flip-flopped. So in Goldilocks and the Three Bears, it's a little girl who goes into the home of three bears. But in this book, it's a bear who goes into the home of three humans. So we've kind of flopped our characters a little bit. Now, another interesting thing that this book did is it went on to tell us a little bit about what happened in the story a little further, right? So they added some extra things to our book, which is kind of cool to see how the story continues on. So what I would like to do next is we're going to summarize this book. Now, a summary is when we make a short statement about the main events in a text. And the reason why we create summaries is it helps us to think about what happened in a text in a very short amount, right? It took us a little while to read this book. And so a summary is something that we can tell in 1 to 2 sentences, but the main thoughts that happen. And so for this, we're going to use a somebody wanted but so then, right? SWBST. Okay, it's an acronym that we use to help us. So we're going to answer some of these questions. So, first off, somebody. Who is the main character? So, who's the main character in this book? Very good, Brownilocks. Okay, and what did Brownilocks want? Very good. Brownilocks wanted cornflakes. Talking about these cornflakes makes me want cornflakes too. Do you have a favorite kind of cereal? But what was the problem? So Brownilocks wanted cornflakes, but there was a problem. What was it? She couldn't find the right one. So what did she do? That's right, she tried them all to find one that was just right. And then what was the solution? Yep, after she ate, she took a nap, right? So this summary is not perfect, right? Because there's more that happens after we solve our solution, right? There's more events that happen in this situation. So we might need to continue on and add another sentence. But we've made a pretty good summary about the main events that happened in this book. Now, I have some questions for you. Who's telling the story in this book? Is it Brownilocks? Is it the three people? Somebody else? That's right, it's somebody else, right? It's a narrator, right? So does that mean that this story is told in first person or third person point of view? That's right, third person, right? We're using words like he, she, they. So in this story, how is Brownilocks viewed? Yeah, Brownilocks is a bear that's really hungry, that's going into the home to try and find these different things, right? She's curious and she wants to find this really good bowl of cornflakes that she loves. And then she wants to find the right bed, the right chair, okay? How are the three people viewed? Right, the three people are really kind, okay? They went out of their way to find Brownilocks a beanbag chair that would fit her just right. They went out of their way to find Brownilocks a really big bowl for her cornflakes that would give her just enough, okay? So they were very kind, right? So in this story, they're viewed as very kind people who go out of their way to make Brownilocks feel comfortable and happy to be in their home, okay? So the thing I want you to think about, right, and we talked about this yesterday, is that this story is told from the viewpoint of Brownilocks. We see a lot of what happens from Brownilocks' point of view, from her perspective, right? What does she see when she goes into the house? What events do we see from her side? Now, if we flip-flop this and we told the story from the side of the three people, do you think things might look a little different? Do you think we might get a different perspective? What are some things you think we could learn by telling the story from a different perspective? Yeah, we might learn what the people were thinking, right? Right now, we don't know what they were thinking when they came in, right? We can hear what they're saying, but are they scared? Are they worried? Right? Are they happy that they found this new friend? Now, if I think about this from my perspective, I know that if I saw a bear in my bed, I would be frightened. I would be scared. But these people weren't. So maybe we're also missing a little bit of backstory. Maybe they know who Brownilocks is from maybe meeting in the past. And maybe from telling this from a different perspective, from that perspective of the people, we might be able to get a different viewpoint and understand why they're feeling certain ways, right? We might be able to see why were they so kind to Brownilocks, right? So the point of view from which a story is told, that perspective is very important because it keys us in to certain thoughts and feelings of those main characters, right? We've talked before how when we talk about third person, there's that third person omniscient and third person limited. So when we're limited, we only know the thoughts and feelings of one character, where if it's omniscient, we know the thoughts and feelings of all characters. And so both of them have some benefits and they both have some weaknesses, right? So a weakness of that limited point of view is that we don't always know what the other characters are thinking and feeling. And that sometimes leaves us wondering and thinking about why maybe did they do some of those things. So something to always keep in mind, and maybe a challenge for you, is to write a story from the viewpoint of the people. That might be a fun little activity for you to do. All right, so boys and girls, I'm so glad that you joined us today, and I hope you really enjoyed our story and talking about Brownilocks and the Three Bowls of Cornflakes. But this story's made me really hungry, so I think I need to go get me my own bowl of cornflakes. Maybe you might want to get your own bowl too. All right, so thank you guys for joining us today, and I hope that you had fun, and we'll see you again next time here in room 9. Bye, everybody.
Teaching in Room 9 is made possible with support of Bank of America, Dana Brown Charitable Trust, Emerson, and viewers like you.